Well, good afternoon, guys. On this July 17th, I will today be hiking up the White Pine Trail in the Wasatch Mountains, so let's just jump right in and see what cool plants I can find. So right off the bat, we are already about 7,500 feet up, or around 2,300 meters. So the plants we can find here are definitely already the upper montane zone. Certainly past the point of the white fir and Douglas firs. It's a little bright. But otherwise, I think we'll find a lot of plants we've already seen before, hopefully a few others though. I mean, just right here you can obviously see there's a lot of the cow parsnip, Heracleum, lanatum, or maximum, I can't remember which is the most appropriate one. Some ones I've seen here are getting pretty tall, like up to about 8 feet it seems, which is, I mean, it makes sense because this is a north-facing slope, so there's a lot more moisture due to the lack of evapotranspiration experience due to the lower angle of the sun. I made a whole video about this. So naturally, yeah, a lot of plants that you can find on both sides of the valleys here will be growing taller here as opposed to the south-facing slopes. We've got Agastache urticifolia as well. This video looks stable, we'll find out soon. And Polemonium, foliosissimum. Of course, member of the family Polemoniaceae, a classic one for the western United States. It certainly reaches its peak diversity here. And right here we got another great one. This is Thimbleberry or Rubus parviflora. It's one of my favorite plants to actually forage. In fact, if you actually have any interest in foraging, because it's got such a nice, pleasant flavor to it. Kind of like really shocks your mouth when you eat them almost. They're a bit tart, but in a very unique way. Fortunately, these ones just might not be ready yet or already picked clean, but I can find some flowers I could tell you, but I think I'm about to get past them. Yeah, let's just keep hiking. Now here's a plant I actually think is pretty interesting because I've talked a lot about Rosa woodsii on this channel, but never Rosa nutkana, which is the other native rose to the Wasatch. So it looks very similar to Rosa woodsii, but there are a few features you can use to tell it apart. The first of which is the size of the flowers. Rosa nutkana has flowers that are about 2 inches across from petal tip to petal tip, while in Rosa woodsii they're only about 1 inch across. Secondly, in Rosa nutkana, the flowers are borne singularly as opposed to in clusters with woodsii. And finally, the hips are about 2/3 of an inch across in nutkana, while they're only about 1/3 of an inch across in woodsii. Otherwise, though, they're very similar. They have stems that are about the same size and typically not covered in thorns, so it just got dark. I mean, you have a few thorns, but just not nearly as many as most introduced and feral roses you'll find growing in the Wasatch that are highly invasive, so that's a nice thing about it. It's a much more friendly plant than your average rose. Yeah, let's move on. About 8,200 feet up right now. If you want to watch a video for good views today, I think you guys are going to be in luck. Fortunately, if I went up Red Pine Lake, the views would be even better, but there's way too many people to make videos going up Red Pine Lake Trail, so I went up White Pine instead. Okay, the bugs are really bad right here, so I'm going to try to make these next two quick. Firstly, this is Pediularis racemosa. Member of the family Oroboncaceae is, of course, a parasite, though its green leaves indicate it's non-obligate like many members of the family Oroboncaceae are. And I'm not really quite sure what it is parasitizing. It's close, that's what its flowers look like. They almost look like pea family flowers, which really confused me at first. Like the first time I saw this, because obviously its leaves are not that the pea family, but its flowers, I just had no idea what they belong to, but of course now I know that they belong to Pediularis. It's a really interesting genus. I think we have a really cool one I hope we can find later. And actually, I just was filming that at first. I noticed we have another parasite right here. This one actually is an obligate. This is Coralorhiza. Not entirely sure, most likely striata or possibly maculata, known as Coralroots. This is a parasite as well, as I said, but it's a parasite on fungi that are fungi which are ectomycorrhizal with other conifers typically. So the fungi that are mycorrhizal with like this spruce, for instance, are likely what this guy is parasitizing. So it's not hurting any of the trees like the Pediularis is. Of course, the orchid family is the largest plant family in the world with over 30,000 species by some counts. These, however, are only found in the tropics. That's where the peak of its diversity is. Someone just walked by, but I don't really care. Fortunately, it's a little past bloom, so I can't show its flowers that well, but that's sort of what it looks like now. And I'm going to try and go because I think I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. Now, something that sets apart White Pine Fork from Red Pine Fork is that White pine is not part of the Lone Peak Wilderness, while red pine is. So in red pine, you don't get any ATVing or mountain biking, while you can in this one, which seems very evident right here. You can see the tire tracks in the mud. Wasn't too shaky for you guys, but I was tripping, and I'm trying to hold my hiking poles as I film. I'm not a big fan of the off-roading. I wish they could turn this into a wilderness, or include in Lone Peak Wilderness. And there has been some proposals to do that, but I don't think they've been very successful. It's only a very neat valley. I'm sure any damage caused by off-roading would be alleviated very quickly if it ceased. So I'm very much in favor of it. Again, I don't exactly appreciate, I mean, I've been ATVing a few times. It's kind of fun. It's just not my favorite hobby. Yeah, you can also clearly see it here, how there's stripes of vegetation in the middle, but not on either side where people ride their vehicles. It's a little reading the landscape thing you can look out for. A little charming. My shoes don't soak through. Okay, now at 8,700 feet, still getting eaten by bugs. Two more cool wildflowers. Firstly, this is Monardella odoratissima, a plant that kind of smells nice, but also really bad at the same time. It's like minty, but like kind of a gross mint almost. It's maybe a little hard to see its mint family flowers, but you can see, like, close enough, the fact that it has kind of a almost woody subshrub type of stem. That's a little hard to see, and its opposite leaves. And right here we have another member of Oroboncaceae. This is Orthocarpus luteus. Or actually, I think it's more like Ptolemaea, because it's got it branches more than luteus typically does, and it's got a bit of a hook on its flower, on the lip part of the flower, which is going to be really difficult to see here because I just can't zoom in well enough, and the flowers are not very large, but it's still a cool plant in my opinion. Otherwise though, having trouble identifying some of these things. I mean, this is probably some species of Oriocaria, or I can't remember what the, or Cryptantha, yeah, Oriocaria or Cryptantha. Not very good at telling apart now if they've been broken up. Fur flies in my finger right now. I don't think we're going to bite. We're just trying to drink right now. So my sweat, it's really unnerving because I have been bitten by a lot of mosquitoes today so far. Okay, I really hit the jackpot for cool wildflowers here. Firstly, this big guy. In front of us, this is Veratrum californicum, commonly known as the false hellebore or corn lily. It's a very toxic plant that loves wetlands, and I talk about it a lot, I feel like, so I'm going to move right past it onto these yellow guys over here. This is Erythranthi gutata, formerly known as Mimulus gutata. It's I think most common monkey flower species you'll find in Utah that loves wetlands, as we can, I think, clearly see here. So you can get a close look at its cool flowers. Kind of upside down, so that is what it looks like. It was formerly placed in the family Scrophulariaceae, but until that whole family was blown apart, and now it's placed in Firmaceae. It's a bit of an odd one. It doesn't include much aside from the monkey flowers. The genus Mimulus now only has about 7 species, and most of the rest are moved into Erythranthi, which includes primarily wetland species, or Diplacus, which includes a lot more dryland species, like some that even grow in Death Valley or endemic there. Some more of them right there. This white flower is a species of geranium, most likely Geranium richardsonii, but it could be Viscocinium as well. It's a little hard to tell them apart, but I think Richardsonii typically is more likely to have white flowers, while Viscocinium is more likely to have pink. The main way to tell them apart, though, is like the length of their style, which is a little bit tricky. Actually, it's not. I could have looked at it. I'll figure it out for sure afterwards, but I want to move on to the next cool wildflowers. Now here we have another member of Oroboncaceae, this time a Castellegia. This is Castellegia linearifolia, I think, or maybe linearifolia, something like that. Anyways, it's probably the most common species of Castellegia you'll find in Utah. And it definitely does not only grow in wetlands like you see here. It very commonly you'll find it growing in desert habitats, like alongside or in the same habitat you'll find the Castellegia cremosa all the way up to the tree line. And what really sets it apart is that its petals, which are actually these green things right here, are quite a lot longer than in many other species of Castellegia and stick way out. Like they're about 5 centimeters or 2 inches. at the most, and they're definitely seem to be reaching that right here. It's like one of the most stunning of the castledges you can find. And now, one of my favorite wildflowers and one I was really hoping to find, and I'm very glad I did. This is the elephant head, also known as Pediularis greenlandica, although it's spelled more like Groenlandica. This is actually a great example of why it might sometimes be important to know how to pronounce the Latin names, because it's very clearly was a reference to Greenland and not some place called Groenland, its scientific name. When you actually read the scientific name I put up, it'll make a lot more sense what I'm talking about. But anyways, another parasite, of course, not obligate, but got these cool, almost fern-like looking leaves. That's what a lot of Pediularis leaves look like. The one I showed you earlier is a bit of an exception, with its leaves not being so heavily divided. And I think it should be really easy to tell why it's commonly called elephant head. If not, I'll put a picture up that shows it even better. Love them. They're such a cute wildflower, and you find them super high elevations. And right back here, here's another orchid. This one definitely not a parasite. This is a species of Sporanthes, most likely a Sporanthes romanzophia or romanzophiana. I'm not sure exactly what the second part of its scientific name is. I'll definitely put it up, of course. See, this one definitely is a bit of a wetland preferring plant. Going right here, that guy right there is a Phalictrum fendlerii, kind of boring in relation to everything else. I kid the plant, but it's not a boring one. I think I see it so often, but it's growing very handsomely here. I've never seen it with such big leaves, probably because it's such a nice wet habitat. You normally see it in more mesic areas in my experience. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's any other good ones to talk about, but I'm really happy with what I found at this one spot. And I feel like I could even end the video here if I wanted, but I want to keep hiking just a little bit longer. Couldn't exactly tell you what those daisies are, but I promise one day I'll really do a deep dive into them. The erigerons and everything else. Oh, never mind, there's one other cool species I didn't even notice yet. This, I'm pretty sure, make sure that's what I think it is. This has got to be the, let me think just a second, Aquilegia flava, I think. Aquilegia flava, something like that. It's a species of Aquilegia, of course, commonly known as columbine, that you find growing in wetland areas. You can tell apart from the more common Aquilegia sorrelea, which is actually my favorite Wasatch wildflower, if not my favorite wildflower in the whole world. But the fact this one grows more in wetland areas, and its leaves look a bit different. Right here, actually made that Phalictrum I was talking about was actually a, maybe that was actually the Aquilegia flava. I'll go back and check really quick, but I just love the way they have these nectar spurs back there. It's such a nice, cool plant. Toxic, of course, as a member of the family Ranunculaceae, but what can you do? I think it's still my favorite plant family, I think. In fact, the fact that it's so toxic, I think, makes it one of my favorites. It's a contributing factor to how much I like it. This might be the longest contiguous clip I've ever made. So much longer I can go. This is Rudbeckia, I think occidentalis, something coneflower. Not sure the common name is. You might also find some Radibeta coneflowers out here which have the petals, but I think Radibetas are closely related to Rudbeckias, but the Rudbeckias, at least in my experience, definitely don't have any of the petals. Or to say petals, I mean ligulate flowers, because as all members of Asteraceae, you typically don't see the flower petals. What you see are flowers that have been modified to look like flower petals. When the petals of a sunflower, for instance, those are all, you're not looking at the flower petals primarily, you're looking at the modified flowers. So each of those little dots you see on this plant, on the flower, if it shows up on camera, is an individual flower actually. It's likely not a flower, it's an inflorescence. I'm probably confusing you guys now, so I'm sorry. This must be twinberry honeysuckle. Some of my comments was wondering how high up it grows, so I can now safely say at least probably about almost to 9,000 feet. It's not quite blooming yet, or maybe it just passed bloom and now it's developing its berries. Yeah, I think this one got pollinated. Might be a little hard to see on camera. Let me see if I can get a slightly better view of it. There you go. I was holding a little too far away. But man, I'm feeling really good. Now is this, okay, that might still be a Phalictrum, I think. It's just a little, yeah, I can't find the flower, so I'm guessing it's still a Phalictrum, but I'm gonna go move on now and see if there's anything else that's cool I can find, but if not, thanks for watching and see you next time. I'm really happy with what I got done here. Over 7-minute long contiguous shot. Very interesting here. We seem to have a wet meadow that dried up a bit. A sloping wet meadow at that, because we got all these Veratrum californicums, which again, definitely wetland plant. They seem to be suffering a bit, which makes sense because the soil here is very dry, and it is indeed a wetland plant. So I also got the Pediularis Greenlandica I just was talking about. We're in this really parched soil, and it doesn't seem to be liking it very much. So it makes you think something caused a drought here. And you know what, it might just be the fact that we've had a dry July so far and dry late June. I don't think we've gotten really any rain in the last maybe 3 weeks. And it must be taking a toll on some of the plants here. Just to wrap this up, I'll show you one more Rosa nutkana. Nice big flowering, seems to be doing a lot better considering it's not typically a wetland plant. Man, these bugs are ridiculous. Should also mention Rosa nutkana typically grows above 8,000 feet in elevation. Oh, hello. Little Katie did. How'd you get in the bugs? Alright, thanks for watching guys, and see you next time.